Hey everybody, welcome to a somewhat impromptu live stream today. This is, I just reinstalled my entire computer this week. Mostly I do that every once in a while, just to get rid of all of the stuff that is bloated up on my computer and to really clean it out, get a fresh start. And so that's what I did. But it turns out setting up the streaming stuff and all of that software is kind of a pain in the butt. And so we're going to make sure this is kind of a stream that if it crashes and burns, that it'll just be up for today. But I really do want to talk about this SSL AutoBUS plugin. This is something that's not brand new from SSL, but it's relatively new. And I've done videos about Sonable in the past, and they're the company that SSL teamed up with to make this new auto series that they have. There's 3 different plugins. There's a dynamics, an EQ, and then this the bus. And if you've never used an SSL bus compressor, well, this might not mean as much to you, but for those of us who use it on the regular, it's nice to have a software version that SSL is happy with. And so teaming up with Sonable to add, it's like an AI type tool that helps us, helps us get the settings kind of in the right place. But I do want to talk about it and using it with the drum kit designer in Logic Pro, because those two things together, they're pretty cool. And so that's what the stream is going to be about. So we'll talk about it. And hey, Plastodon. And man, I need to get my screen back up and working. And Jean, Luke Santiago, and Johan. How y'all doing? So we're going to, let me do a little demonstration of how it works first, and then we can talk about this, because I'm always interested in the AI type tools that aren't here to replace the musical creation process, but sometimes just make it a little bit better or more efficient or easier. So that's the goal for this today a little bit, is to talk about that. Now, SSL, they're like one of those legacy companies that's always been known for high quality audio. And my main interface that I use in my studio here is an SSL 12. And we have one of the AWS series consoles in one of our studios at the university that I teach on a regular basis. We've had that for a number of years, and it's awesome. And I've used SSL in other studios. I mean, they're a brand name, right? They're a good name, and have certainly pushed out some amazing things. They're continuing to innovate in the analog and digital worlds. And so it's kind of cool. But they have this legacy of some of their tools, like the bus compressor, which this plugin is tied in with. And so as we're using this, keep that in mind. Any of the quirks that come with this come from the analog world. And in fact, SSL, I don't feel like they've really done a lot of innovation in the software world, because a lot of what we get are things that mimic what we have in the hardware or analog world. And so we have knobs that could do more, but they're designed to function like the hardware equivalent. And so that's part of this, right? That's part of the whole ecosystem, is not necessarily reinvention of everything or having the best new equalizer out on the market or things, but to really give us that the seamless transition between the hardware and the software world, so that if we're, say, on a laptop somewhere, we can use an SSL plugin the way we would use one of their consoles if we were in a studio. I mean, that seems to make sense to me. But it means For instance, we're not going to have all these like fancy bells and whistles that you might see from a new compressor that would be released in the last 2 or 3 years, right? So we're not seeing a lot of that, but we wouldn't expect to. But in this case, with these 3 plugins, and we're really just going to look at autoBUS today because that's one of those things that if I can see a workflow for using it with like Drum Kit Designer, can we make Drum Kit Designer sound any better than it does on its own or with a Logic tool? Sure, we've got like Chroma Glow and compression and limiting and all of this stuff inside Logic that we can use with this. Does the SSL AutoBUS add anything different to the conversation? Is it worth the money to buy it or, rented subscription service, whatever? That's the question I'm always thinking in my head. Does this make what I'm doing better? And is it something that I don't have in any other way? Well, there's a part of me, being nostalgic that in the way that I am, there's a part of me that always says, well, shoot, this is SSL. And I love the bus compression that we get on the console. And I teach my students when to use it and why to use it and how to use it. And so software version, if it gets close to that character, does that mean something to me personally? And it does. It does mean something to me because I love that sound and brand and everything that comes with it. So awesome. What do we have here though that's different? Well, this whole top section, if I zoom in a little bit here, you'll see the autoBUS name and the power button. But then below that, we have this thing that says auto and style, a little graphic meter, a reset button, a profile button, and then this thing that says powered by Sonable that we can use. Now, I don't know if that's actually transitioning when I zoomed up just now. So I don't think I'll do that again in this stream. But what we have with this learn button, the green button, is the ability for it to analyze the signal that's coming in, and then it's going to change what the plugin does based on the input that's there. So let me actually do that real quick. I just have a basic Drum Kit Designer loaded, nothing fancy, but I'm going to click the Learn button, and it says awaiting audio, and then you have to push play on the transport. Says it's complete, and there we have it. So now with this, with the profile, we can do universal, or it has any of these other presets here that are mix based. So if you want to use this on a mix, a vocal bus, a guitar bus, or a drum bus. So I'm putting on the drum bus for now. And as I click on that, let's go to the guitar bus, or even electronic, you'll see things are moving. Like the actual parameters change based on some of these things, ever so slightly. It's not just that they're changing. This is not just a preset engine, because it'd be easy to say, let's just give you some basic settings that would apply for whatever you're doing. The truth is, it's a different thing because it's analyzing the signal that's coming into it. So now let's push play. I'm going to play this one time through with this on, and then I'll turn it off and we'll listen to it one time with it off. Okay. As you might expect with anything that's a dynamics tool and a preset that they want us to like, it makes it a little bit louder, a little bit beefier. And I'm interested in the actual settings that it chose for this. And then we're going to try maybe an experiment with this as well, where we actually adjust some of the levels and see what it's doing to change those things. Because that's what I'm curious. It's like, yes, I give it this drum kit and it gives me one output. If I give it a little bit different type of input, how much is it going to change with the settings? Because that's what I'm curious about. So it's giving us a 2-to-1 ratio, which is not tons for compression, but it's what we might do on a master bus like this. We're not really looking to squash it so much. We are looking for more cohesion, a little bit that binding glue that we talk about with the bus compressor on an SSL, and looking to just add something, but not too much. The threshold is minus 1.9 decibels. That means we're pretty beefy with the original signal. It's pushing it up 4.3 decibels as makeup gain. The attack is set to 30. The release is 0.1. And then the mix is at 100. Okay. Like I said, I want to try something else. I'm going to see if I can... Does that actually do what I think it does? So we're going to reduce the gain. We're going to relearn. Most of the settings are the same, except the threshold has been lowered and the makeup gain has been raised. Not as much as I thought it was going to. Like it didn't make it the same level. It tried to keep it a similar level to what it was and just change it a little bit. Let's relearn again at the 0. And so we're back to a minus 1.9. Oh, I guess the makeup gain is about the same. Interesting. So the real difference between the two levels that I gave it was just the threshold being different, but not much else. Interesting. We also have these style things, so I can do a soft style. You'll see that there's a little bit of different numbers there, and then a strong style. And that's a lot of makeup gain and a lower threshold, but the same. Well, the attack is different. Let's go back to medium. The attack went from 30 to 10, but it didn't change at all for the lightest one. Let's go to strong for a second. I don't hear a ton of difference between soft and medium, but between medium and strong is a huge difference. Overall, my impression is that I do like what it's doing. I do. That's never been an issue with this, but let's do one other comparison here. I'm going to, I've got a couple of those other plugins on here. Chroma Glow probably came with a preset. I mean, they both did, the EQ and the Chroma Glow. Let me think of this for a second. I think, let's turn off, well, let's leave the channel EQ, whatever the preset is, but we'll turn off Chroma Glow. I'm going to relearn this one more time. Threshold changed, everything else stayed about the same. But what I want to do is actually add the Chroma Glow here. Whew. So I would need to hear maybe this on full speakers. I'm using really nice headphones from Beyerdynamic. However, I might need to actually listen to this in a more treated room. Although with headphones, you do get a good sense. I'm not sure because they are doing similar things. It's the low frequencies. I can't tell as much. Both of them, in some ways, are taking into account the input signal. So we have on the one hand, the Sonable engine for the autoBUS. On the other hand, with ChromaGlow, it is just, it's listening as things come in and doing things a little bit differently depending on the input signal. We don't know everything that's happening in ChromaGlow. They're not telling us every little bit of the algorithm for that. But I do know that it certainly acts differently depending on the input signal. Cool. It doesn't have to learn the input, though. It's using a delayed response latency in order to get that look ahead type thing. That being said, one thing that I do and don't like about that is that with ChromaGlow, sure, we have models. We can say tube or magnetic or squeeze or preamp, and we have two different styles, and we can select which frequencies are being, if we bypass below a certain, if we want to cut or a low part or do a high cut, sure, right? We have some basic controls, but we don't actually know everything how it's doing it. They're little mum's the word on that. With the autoBUS, it's analyzing it and changing our compression settings, but it's a compressor. It's a great compressor modeled off of one of the best compressors, right? And so what we have here is, sure, it's analyzing it, but then we can actually we can change some things. And we understand or can understand exactly what we're doing. Are the results, could we get the same results? Maybe. If we listened really carefully. I don't think I can tell the low frequencies and the headphones as easily as I would like. But yeah, we could probably get similar results. We could use ChromaGlow as a dynamics tool that glues things together, just as we would with the bus from SSL. But there's something about this tool. As a professor, as a teacher, would I want my students to use the autoBUS or just use the bus, right? With this, what's nice is if you're not sure, this gives you some ideas. It gives you a starting place. And a starting place is often what we need if we're tired or our ears are tired. We've been mixing for hours and hours. There's nothing wrong with leaning on a tool that gets us to a starting place, and then we can go from there. And so that part of what this collaboration between Sonable and SSL, I really like. I think there's some value in that. I like that. Sure, it moves the knobs around, but we get to see exactly what it's recommending. And then we can say, you know what? I don't know if that's really what we wanted for this. And so you can say, I'm going to move my threshold, or I'm going to up my ratio. And there's reasons for all of those things. For instance, one nice thing about this is that we can really slam it, and then we have the dry wet mix to do some parallel compression. So we go, well, let's go all the way to 20 to 1, threshold down, right? Really squashing it. And even though the graph is showing that it's hugely overcompressed, when we move the mix knob down, then we get some of the natural sounding drums with that. We have this on our Logic Pro compressor as well. If you're like, well, I don't want to do that, we have the mix knob here, and so we can do that same input versus output without necessarily, we don't need the SSL to do that. And other workstations besides Logic, many of them have that built into all of their effects. In Logic, we have that built into our dynamics, and not all of them. But it's a nice option on the compressor. So with this, we can do that. We can really squash it. We have the 2, 4, and 20. But with the mix knob, we can really dial in how much of the compressed versus the uncompressed that we want in our output signal. Okay, cool. We have a small group. Plastodon says that's the perfect setting for jazz. Woohoo! You said that a few minutes ago, so I don't know exactly which one you're talking about. But if you're talking about 2-to-1 ratio, which is a good setting for jazz when you're not over compressing, that would make sense. What other comments or questions? Is this something? Let's break this apart from the real issue. But how many of you would think, man, this SSL AutoBUS, that would be really cool if money wasn't an option or a consideration, right? What if money wasn't a consideration for any of this? Would this be a tool that you'd want to use or feel like you could use in your workflow? That'd be a question. How many of you have ever used an SSL bus compressor out in the wild, an actual console one? Is that a reason for you to use the software version? You know what I mean? Is that that connection to it something that matters? I'm not somebody who's going to come on. I've heard people on YouTube or other places say, this is something you have to have. Like, you've got to have it. And anytime someone says you've got to have something, my alarm bells all go tingly and my spidey sense says, what is it about this tool that makes you think you need to have it? Well, the truth is, if you're working in a studio with an SSL and you're trying to get a certain sound coming off of your master, then it's a great tool for some things. Oh, I see, Plastodon. You were saying the 2-to-1 was a good setting for jazz, but you were joking and liked the really extreme compression you did after. Yep, that was... we don't talk about jazz on this channel. Not too much. Intentionally. But it's interesting. I like this use of an AI type analyzer that doesn't take away from what I am going to do. We're not locked in. It gives you a suggestion and then you get to move the knobs around, right? It's like an easy dial. If you're sitting in a studio and you have an assistant engineer that they know how you typically work, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna go grab a water. Why don't you dial in all of my initial settings for things like patch up my distressors and put on the EQ in the general places. I mean, it feels like having an assistant engineer in some ways. Not somebody who's making the final call, although sometimes I feel like it could, but something that is like just getting the ball rolling, and then we get to take it from there and dial it in exactly what we want. Like, couldn't be any more different than something like Suno, which, builds a song from the ground up. This doesn't build anything. It just dials in some settings based on what the input is, and we go from there. This is similar in some ways to, let's turn off the EQ that we have on here and put on the SSL AutoEQ. We're going to learn the signal, maybe. Whoa, that's not a, look at that curve. Unexpected. Drum set. A lot better. I mean, other uses for this. This is useful if you have something that you're not sure how to EQ, but it's like you get a file from somebody or a loop, and you put this on, and you're like, okay. Look, this thing which has been trained on a lot of drum kits suggests that there's some low mid frequencies that maybe should be pulled out. Okay, that seems like an obvious thing for most instruments. But then it's like pushing up a little bit of 1K and a little bit of 2K. I wonder what that's all about. Good thing we now have the full EQ down here, and we can actually come through and figure some of that out. Or we can do a little bit more or take a little bit out. That's what this is for me, instead of a tool that tries to do everything for me. This is maybe solves one of the biggest issues, and I hope nobody at Sonable is listening right now. I've done videos, not for them, but they let me try out their software, and then I make videos, but like they don't pay me or anything. And so I've had issues with some of the Sonable implementations of the EQs and the compressors. This to me solves so much of that because I still get the analysis function, the recommendation function, but then I get this really comfortable implementation of the actual EQ that sounds like the SSL EQ or dynamics or bus compressor, and then I get to tweak afterwards. That to me was the dream, right? Have some of the Sonable tools, have the SSL processing and interface. I love that so much. That for me is one of the biggest deals. Plaston saying, is this compressor any different from the SSL compressor other than it's auto, but the sound character is the same? Well, so in this case, I just loaded up the EQ. It's a separate one. This one here. So for instance, if I were to load up, let me see if I can understand what you're saying, but like the G, let me see if there's any other, I'm just looking through the list. This is the 4000G. And there are, so the idea is with all of this stuff, the bus compression is designed to be the bus compressor from SSL. And then the actual Sonable stuff is just the analysis and doesn't, as far as I know, hasn't changed the character of the actual processing that they're adding in. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but any of these that we have from the kit that have that master bus, it is going to be essentially the same. And so we're dealing with it's not, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm thinking and talking and streaming all simultaneously. What more do you want from me? But so the character is not changed by the Sonable. The Sonable just helps us get some of the settings, if that makes sense. And there's only 3 of these in the SSL library right now. I don't know if they're going to add more or not. I don't, it's hard to say. But I do know that what we're looking at is the first 3. If they're successful, maybe more of these will get implemented. That'd be really cool if they did. By the way, for anybody who's using the Panorama CS12 controller, this thing can get controlled by it. So you can't see my hands moving down here. But when you can see the ratio moving, I love the fact that I can come through and use knobs on this. And it's the new, well, it's not new because we could do the effects before, but the updated Panorama CS12 software has been so great for instrument control, the continued effect control. It's just working as good as ever. But I love that I can do some of this work now with knobs, and it's awesome. It is really cool. Dry web mix. I love the closer I can get to a console with knobs, the happier I sometimes feel. Yeah, pass it on. It's just adding this auto feature from Sonable as an analysis tool, but keeping all of the sound and the power of the SSL stuff, for sure. I can't remember when this came out. It was last year sometime. I'm just getting my hands on it now. I don't ever adopt anything except for Logic updates on day one, right? Sometimes things have to kind of fall in my lap to make that happen, but I'm the same as so many people. It's like another subscription, another fee for something. Do I need it? Do I not need it? That's always the question. Because it feels like the music industry is nickel and diming us right now. They're trying to get us to feel like every new thing is worth paying for extra. And that's just not the case. Not everything is worth paying for, and not everything do we need. In fact, Logic Pro comes with one of the best set of installed effects, instruments, and tools and features overall. Like, yeah, I can understand if someone wants to use Ableton because of the power and flexibility of the tools that come with it, right? If you're doing any sort of loop-based things, or you're doing live performance where you need that flexibility, or even if you're just doing, sound design, or even tons of musical style creation, yeah, Ableton's great. Like, if you're doing it for the right reasons, it makes perfect sense. If you're doing it because you think other software can't do things, then I just have a problem with that specifically. So I'm asking the question, right? Do we have something in Logic that can handle all of this and do it? No, we don't have anything that's making suggestions for us. The presets in Logic are generally pretty bunk. They like to give us channel strips that really don't get us very close, and I don't use them. They're not useful. This is one of the only tools like this that I would use. One of, but not maybe the only, but one of the only. Because I think the learning part and the analysis part is solid. And then it gives us SSL tools after that we can tweak and make sound however we want. And Plastodon, exactly. There was just an example of, because I hear a lot of my students are like, well, I'm using Ableton. Ableton is the best. And I'm like, the best is such a subjective word. It's not the best, but it's really good at what it does. And if you have the money to spend on it, then awesome. That's great. It's like I don't feel any competition from Ableton or Ableton users. Because it turns out if you put me in a room with somebody, and I'm in a room all the time with people who consider themselves like high-powered Ableton users, and we start talking, there's things I can do in Logic that they can't do, or I can do them a lot faster, or a lot cheaper. Because I don't have to pay for the upgrade every year. When the new Ableton upgrade comes out, you're spending money, or if you're a new user, you're spending money, and it just doesn't matter. There's a lot of money in third-party tools So if I were to go up against somebody who's in Ableton using just Ableton stuff, they would certainly say things like, well, what about this? And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, cool. Your modulation ability between every part of Ableton is pretty cool. Show me how you're using it. And then I'd be shocked if it's not something we can't do just in a different way in Logic. You know what I mean? There's very few things that, yeah, maybe I can't do it exactly how you're doing it, but that doesn't mean I can't do it or I can't get it done. And so there's a sliver of those things that they say Ableton is the only one that can do this. There's a few things. But I would love to get into the weeds of some of the things that Logic can do that other software can't do. There's a lot of those things. So for me, seeing this, the autoBUS from SSL, I wish Logic could do this. I wish we could pull up a compressor, have it recommend settings based on the actual audio input that's coming in. That to me seems like way more important than adding ChatGPT in our notes pad, which we have. And it seems way more important than some of the other features that we've had added to Logic Pro lately. But as we all know, Apple hasn't sorted out AI and how to use it and how to make it work even in the most basic ways that other companies have done. And so I'm not necessarily suggesting that is coming in Logic. In fact, I'm pretty sure that if we want tools like this, then we have to use tools like this, the SSL AutoBUS, for better or worse. Plastidon, if one more person talks to me about tape 16, which is not a new concept, even remotely, sometimes I'm wondering how the internet picks things to get excited about and hyped. I'm not going to make a video about tape 16. I know people are attracted to workflows that are limiting. It feels safe, not to have too many options. In fact, one of the things about Logic that is not my favorite sometimes is how many different ways there are you can do the same things. How many key commands or different menus or, using your mouth. It's like there's so many ways to do the same things in Logic. It can be overwhelming. And that to me, I think is something that is hard when you start using something like Logic. It can literally do everything. It's like there are features that I've now made videos about, live loops for one, that it's like I'm never going to use on a regular basis. There's too much. And so there's something attractive about seeing this like workstation pop up that it only does like a thing and you have to actually perform and be a musician. It's like everything that people are feeling pent up about AI. Well, it comes out in a format where now we can get a DAW that doesn't even have an undo button. And it's limited and everything you do gets like rendered into audio. Awesome. I understand, I think, this is a reaction to things that are happening all around us. But I don't think that that's the right option for most people. But the hype about it, it's like cool. Oh, and like the animated tape reels take up like the entire screen. I can go off. Yeah, and Plastidon, I only read half of yours. I saw tape 16 and went on a rant. But you're right? The best is subjective. You got to figure out what the best is for you and not worry about like what other people think about it. Totigra says, I think there's like 6 ways to bounce in Logic. So true. I mean, there's like 6 ways to do everything. Don't get me started. I mean, I already started, but don't. I raise my fist because it's completely unnecessary. However, at this point, it's too late. And by too late, what I mean is if they were to get rid of any of the ways of doing things, they would affect somebody. And so we're stuck in that world. But I wish if I was in charge of this, I would limit the ways and say, you know what, we're going to simplify. And every time we simplify, the power goes back to what you can do. Like, how cool of a branding thing would that be? We're going to limit how many ways you can do certain things. And in exchange, the excess power that was originally being used by the bloat will go back to what you can do with your projects. I bet you people would be okay with that. But I just don't think we need so many things. Rant number 16. Yes. Stuna says, stop worrying about features. How many songs have you written recently? That is a question everybody should ask. And I do ask that to people because I'll, have an argument with something or a discussion, or I'll have people who watch videos on here and I think, you're procrastinating working on a song by watching this live stream. How many of you are procrastinating a song by watching this live stream? Don't stop watching the live stream. That'd be stupid. But we all need our projects to focus on. Me, I have just finished up the spring semester. I have one more class tomorrow. And then just grading and posting grades next week, and then I'm off for the summer. Woohoo! And I'm so ready because we're going to get back on some more live streams and talking about cool things and doing song writing things. But we have a lot coming up, which is going to be really cool. And so I'm excited for that. I built out my office studio on campus a lot better. There's acoustic paneling and a console and all kinds of fun stuff that I'm going to be doing in there. And it's nice to be able to listen on speakers that are all calibrated and pretty sounding, accurate sounding, but accuracy is pretty to me. So we're good with that. But it's just like, I need one major thing in my life to shift so that I can do the other things. And so I'm excited about, listening and getting some more songs started, which is kind of cool. Shuno says, I limit myself by using the iPad version of Logic. That is a limitation. That's not a bad one, though. And it's a pretty powerful piece of software. And Plastodon is grading my classes for me. I love that. We've got about another minute or two. I really wanted to talk about the SSL stuff, and I'm going to be talking about it maybe some more when I actually do some more songwriting streams, because it means something to me personally. And if it means something to me, then I want to talk about it. And I love SSL. I always have. It's like, that's why I have the SSL 12 as my main interface in this streaming room. And I have a few of their plugins I've used over the years. The console obviously is something that format that I love teaching on. It's weird. It's like the fallback system for the queue is tricky to teach students, but I just did a bunch of, we do end of the semester proficiencies where students have to come in and they have to, plug in a microphone, get it through the console into our computer and back out onto the console for headphone systems. And I felt really great about it. So many of the students came in and could just knock it out. This is an audio production 2 class. So they're still potentially in their freshman year of college, and they've already mastered how to get the signal flow through the SSL in our flagship studio. It's like, that's cool because now they can go on to their other classes and not have to continually fight against the board, right? You can come in and do things. Once you're freed from shackles of the console in a room like that, then you can actually hear what the sound sounds like instead of stressing out about where the right patch cable is. I'd love to see that. That's what we're going to do, Plastodon. We are going to use this on my next song nights and things. I'm going to pepper it in. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. We're not becoming an SSL channel. Nor are they paying me for any of this. But I am talking to someone at SSL about their tools, and I'm going to have a call with them coming up because I think that they're interested to see how people could use this or view it as something like it is. I mean, every company that tries something new like this is putting themselves out there, and there's no guarantee people are going to use it. A lot of people use SSL plugins because they're on the hardware. And if you're not on the hardware, why would you use the plugins? They're weirdly limiting in a way, not an audio term of limiting, but they have some quirks. And so a lot of people use them because they've used the hardware and they feel comfortable with it. And yet they just added something that most people who use SSL hardware are not going to be drawn to, an auto feature. And so I wonder if there's some sort of questions that they have about how that could be useful for people. And I love it. I think giving me a little bit of a head start on something, especially when, long days are what we do in the studio, and just dialing in just a little bit for us, I think that's awesome because it's not taking away the power we have or the ability to do things. And I think that's great. I'm excited to use the EQ more because it's like we have some vintage EQs in Logic, the Pultec and the API and the Neve, and I don't really like any of them. They're okay, but I don't really like any of them. So we're gonna see where some of this stuff takes us. That's it. I think we're gonna end there. Thanks for watching now or later. If you've made it this far in the stream, you're crazy and probably should be working on a song instead of just sitting here on YouTube. But I appreciate you being here anyway. We'll see how this video does. I have a feeling there's not a lot of people searching for SSL AutoBUS or any of the auto series, but if we get more people really interested in this, then we'll do some more content about it. But we have a couple cool videos coming up, I feel like, and we're going to be doing a lot more streaming starting next week. And then, summer hits and we'll see how that goes. I know there's at least one vacation in my future where I will not be streaming or doing anything, but that's not till July. I'll talk to you all later. Thanks for watching.